today we're talking about competition and how it can be toxic and unhealthy sometimes, but then it's not entirely a bad thing either. And what's interesting is that people will really kind of be, I guess, passive aggressive when it comes to their good intentions. What I mean by that is people will tend to think, all right, I want to be number one. I want to win at the expense of other people. And that's really kind of a toxic attitude. But then sometimes they want to be do-gooders too. So they will say, well, I want to help other people. I want to help everybody. But what they really mean is, I want credit for being able to say that I've helped other people. And I want to be number one. And then I want everyone else to be just a little bit behind me. But I want to still be first place, but I want other people to win a little bit more so that I can be number one and also get credit for saying that I've helped other people to be better off too. But ultimately, they're going to always be watching to make sure that you don't get ahead of them. So it doesn't really matter whether they're trying to be helpful or if they're just trying to get ahead at any cost. Because to that sort of people, it's all one and the same. They can't see someone else succeed more than they do without being absolutely, completely consumed with envy and disgust. And as an example of what I'm talking about, I'll sometimes talk about stock trading with a friend of mine. And it really doesn't matter, you know. We have different things that we're into that we think about and put our money into, right? No big. But what I noticed is with this guy, he spends his time doing two things. Half the time he's trying to get me to put my money into what he is putting his money into, and he tries to convince me that if I don't buy into what he's buying into, then I'm going to miss out, and then he's going to shove it in my face later when his bet goes up and mine goes down. And I notice, you know, there's ups and downs. Sometimes you make good calls, sometimes you make bad calls. That's how the market works. There's nothing he hates more than seeing that what he bought went down and what I put my money into went up. And it's not about the money. It really isn't. It's about the ego. And it's that sense of, you know, you're going to be left behind if you don't buy what I'm buying. Because I'm going to be retired off on a private island somewhere. And you're still going to be here. You know? It's kind of interesting how it all goes. Like, people are just that way. But then there's also that savior complex. There's that desire to say, you know, I helped somebody get in on the ground floor on this crypto or whatever. Yeah. Because it's not that you're trying to help people. It's that you want to get ahead. Just like everybody else, you want to get ahead by doing nothing. Put your money into some magic ticket that's going to make you rich without any work or effort. You know. There's no difference between gambling and that kind of thing. And then there's also that desire to be a savior, to be able to say, you know, look how many other people I've helped. And they will all be able to eat crumbs that fall from the master's table. You know, I really have no respect for this disingenuous behavior that people have. They want sympathy when things don't go their way. But the minute things start to go well for them, they want to shove it in everybody else's face that they're better. Well, it kind of doesn't go both ways. You know, it's the same thing with women. There's a lot of women in today's society that are all about the female empowerment, and I believe in that. But guess what? They want to be empowered, but they also want to be waited on, and they want to be treated differently, and they want to be provided for, and they want somebody that's going to work hard so that they don't have to have a job. Well, that's not all women, but it happens. So you don't really get it both ways. Because the truth is, when you get the benefits of protection, then you forfeit some of the rights of autonomy. And if you want to protect your liberty, then you have to take responsibility for your actions. And we seem to be often surrounded by hypocrisy of people who kind of try to manipulate other people, and they try to always be number one. And they don't want to say that outright because that doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound good to say that you're just a selfish idiot. And yet that's kind of what most people wind up being. They're not going to be there when you are having a problem, but they're certainly going to be open to the idea of collecting something when they need a hand. I guess it all boils down to this. Look in the mirror, because we're all surrounded by this kind of toxic behavior. You know, it could be relationships, it could be your stock trading buddy, it could be some toxic person in a video game. But the truth is, we all have toxic behaviors that come out when we're trying to be good. You know, it's not like anybody just gets up in the morning and says, let me just go see what kind of a obnoxious, manipulative person I can be today. You know, we get up in the morning and we try to do right by ourselves and others. That's true for most people. But sometimes we can't see our own folly because you get used to yourself. And then when somebody else is acting up, you can see that, but you don't really see that you are doing the same thing. And I think that most of the time, we all are guilty of the sins which we see in others to some degree. It's just easier to judge others than it is to look in the mirror. So it's good to, yes, look at other people, see what kind of things that you don't like about their character, and then make a point to say, all right, does that maybe apply to me to some degree? And you'll probably find it does. You know, I don't think of myself as being an extremely competitive person. I don't think of myself as being the kind of a person that wants to shove other people's nose in their defeat when I have some level of success. I don't think of myself as being a person who tries to manipulate other people's decisions. But I also have come to realize that in life, we tend to just not be able to see our own folly. And it's important to understand that you can't change other people. They're going to do what they do. You can want to change them, you can judge them, you can be frustrated with them, but really the only takeaway that's going to be worth anything in the end is if you can harness that observation and then use that to course correct your own life. And I know I'm guilty of a lot of the very same things that I will point out in others. Especially sometimes, I think, when you kind of believe that you have the high ground. You think that you're kind of coming from the right place. Then those obnoxious attitudes just kind of sort of sneak up on you. And you fall prey to them without even realizing it. Self-righteousness is probably one of the great sins of our Western society. People that say that they're pragmatic, progressive liberals and all that kind of stuff, and then they go out there and they want to shut down anybody who has any kind of an opinion or a voice that's different from their own supposedly enlightened position. So if you can't tolerate and respect and empower anybody who has a position that's different than your own, then you're just an extremist by another name. It doesn't matter that you don't think you are one. Everyone else will know you are one because you don't respect other people. So it doesn't matter if you just have a policy of not respecting people or if you have a policy of hating and shutting down other people who you deem to be disrespectful. It's all the same thing. So humility is always going back to the drawing board and saying, I'm not too sure that I'm coming from the right place. So let me do a little bit of daily soul searching and let some things go and then try to, come from the right place in the end. And then finally, I guess I'm going to say, to conclude this, there's 3 basic sorts of attitude you could have. And one is to want to be competitive. And that's what I like what I was just saying. People get to be so irritated if anyone else gets ahead more than they do. And they tend to always have an ulterior motive. Even if they're helping people, they want to stay number one. That's toxic and that's not the way to be. But then there's also a lot of people who are really apathetic and they just don't care. It's always fallen into the same pit over and over again. And it doesn't seem like it makes any difference how many times they fail, how many times they face the consequences of the same basic action again and again. They're always going to come back and they're always going to do the same bad thing again because they just don't care. They have no motivation to do anything. They don't want to grow. They don't want to change. They don't want to develop. They don't want personal growth. They just want to hang out and not care about anything. And that's also not good at all. So you don't want to be consumed by apathy. You also don't want to be extremely competitive to where you want control over everything and everyone. So where does that leave you? It leaves you with progression. And progression is where you do make progress. You do things. You do grow. You do move forward. It's just the benchmark you compare yourself to is yourself. You always strive every day to be a little bit better, a little more consistent compared to your own record of performance. You always strive to better yourself and you compare yourself to yourself. When you do that, then you can compete. You are just competing against yourself instead of comparing yourself to others. And in a way, you care a little bit less because you're not comparing yourself to others all the time. But you also still care about your own personal stewardship, your personal growth in your private life. And finally, what do you do about all the people who are toxic in the world? Well, you could say that you shut them out, you move on, you exclude them, but that's not the way to go. The way to go is you work on not being those kind of people, And then you allow those people, even the people with toxic habits, you allow them access to your life. You don't shackle yourself to their demons, but you do leave the doors open, because sometimes you may be in a position where you are growing, you are working on yourself, and somebody else might benefit from that. Which is why you share your life. It's why you leave doors open. Doesn't mean that you pause and don't move forward. Doesn't mean any of that. But there's this tendency, we want to go ditch to ditch, you know. It's like, well, either we're going to shut everybody out of our life who doesn't meet our expectations, or we're going to try to change them, or we're going, you know, we're going to find these perfect people to put into our life. Well, you know, you're not assured any of those things. And what is the point of even trying to work on yourself if you're going to alienate and push away all the people who you think are toxic or cruel or unkind? Now, you can protect yourself from them. You can put up safeguards so that they are not able to do harm in your life. You can emotionally analyze where people are coming from so that you understand. You don't necessarily need to take some things people say personally, because that's just where they are and that's who they are. And you don't need to necessarily pay mind to it. That's healthy. But you also don't want to shut people out just because they've got problems. And, you know, that's like that story I was telling you about this, you know, friend of mine. We talk stocks and we talk about all that stuff. And we don't necessarily see eye to eye on exactly what we agree is the right investment strategy. And you know, like I said, I think this guy's a little bit on the toxic side when it comes to his desire to always compete. You know, an example, same thing would go to, you know, with people like playing video games. Like I don't play games in a super hyper competitive way. So if somebody wants to sit down and immediately, their idea of having fun in a game is to see if they can beat you and then shove your face in it, well, then we're just not going to play games together, right? But that doesn't mean we can't talk. Doesn't mean we can't be friends. It doesn't mean that we have to, you know, write somebody off. It's just, you know, you become aware of things, and then once you're aware of them, then you're able to kind of make yourself immune to them. I think that's kind of how it goes. Once you know somebody's kind of full of it, then you just tune them out when they're spewing BS, and the rest of who they are you accept. And everybody has something good about them, something that you enjoy. It's just sometimes people also have obnoxious parts about them, and you can take a partial package. You know, it's kind of like that big bag of, you know, family share size bag of Skittles. You get it, and then you feel like you got to eat the whole thing because you just got no self-control. That's how it is when we want to write somebody off because they don't meet our expectations or because they're toxic or something. Well, you know, just, you know, it's like I've been playing a little bit of Age of Empires, and I was thinking about how I tend not to play that game because I suck at it and I don't play it very much, right? But I like the game. It's kind of cool. So is that not enough? You know, I'll just play it casually then. It's not rocket science. It's just, I'll play it once in a while. Maybe I just play it once a month. Maybe I do suck at it, but I think it's a cool game. So I don't climb a leaderboard. I just enjoy the experience. There's people like that, you know. Maybe you don't see them ever again, but you can still love some aspect of who they are, even if you aren't hanging out with them every day. You can disagree with people. You can view their lives, their opinions, their philosophies as a cautionary tale of everything not to be, but you can still love some aspect of who they are. You can still care about them. And that's the duality of all things in life. Life is filled with things that aren't perfect, and yet there's also a lot of good surrounding all the imperfection. So when you see toxic behaviors in other people, manipulative behaviors, controlling behaviors, the desire to be number one at all expense, well, don't allow those people to do you harm. And don't allow yourself to be consumed by their vices, to get wrapped up in their schemes. But also remain open to all different kinds of people in your life, all different kinds of activities, all different points of view, because you can get something good out of all of it. And keep doors open, because you never know who you might accidentally, without even meaning to, help along the way. And just be aware of these things, and in all things, always strive to have fun, be happy, and realize it's okay not to eat the entire bag of Skittles all at once. Take the good parts and leave the bad parts behind. As always, wherever you find yourself in your journey, best of luck to you. Till next time, thank you.